How is everyone doing out there? It is myself, Jeff Black. I'm joined by the beautiful Brandon DeCruz. As always, we are Chasing Clarity Health and Fitness Podcast. We're hitting you with episode 58, Essential Components of Coaching. As you guys know, we just had Scoob on last week, Jason, and you guys have done a great job of sharing us and tagging us in that and so forth. So here's what B and I are going to do. We're going to start watching the reviews on iTunes, and the best written review will get a all expense covered trip to Nashville, Tennessee whenever we do our Chasing Clarity seminar that we plan on doing. It'll be sometime a year from now, but Brandon and I will hook you up. We'll put you in a nice hotel, make sure you get a flight down here, but we want to see the best reviews on iTunes. And if you guys would leave us a review on Spotify, be sure to tag, share us so we could see. And then who knows, maybe other people will bring you guys on the podcast, have you ask us live Q&A, and we'll just kind of maybe do like a live Q&A with you guys for a podcast episode. So we appreciate you long and short for all the work you guys have done helping us spread the word. So thank you very much. But today we're going to talk about the essential components of coaching. I guess we'll get into our last 7 days as tradition. Mine's been pretty easy, dude. Mine's all really book related. I started writing book number 2. I'm working on the cover with my book. My editor really likes my book and is working with me very closely in this editing process. And then I head out to California in August to film content with Steven Pressfield.
I know you're pumped for that, man.
Yeah,
I'm so excited to see the footage.
Me and him traded together at Gold's Gym. He's like, "You're going to bury me, Jeff." And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I am." But it's going to be great, Steven. We're going to have a great time.
You know what's great? Even if he's not into training, is that he has such a strong mindset that it's going to carry him through that trip.
You know, he's got a trainer. He goes to Gold's Gym every day at 5 a.m.
Very nice.
He's in that legendary 5 a.m. crew.
Absolutely. Arnold's in that same one. So
if I see Arnold there, I'm going to walk up to him and be like, "I love you, but you betrayed bodybuilding." You talk
all right,
shit
let's move on from that one.
Anyway,
let's keep it moving.
But other than that, it's business is good. We got the YouTube channel. We're starting to gain traction with those Q&As. That's fun for us to do. Otherwise, man,
honestly, I've been loving the stuff that you guys been doing. Jason's tagged me in a few of them. Jason Coley, shout out. In some of the training footage that you guys have done in terms of just training questions and things. And no, you guys have been putting out some good stuff. So I'm looking forward to continuing to see it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. My video, my vlog's actually up and live. I'm going to post about that. So that was funny. You get to see my personality because I just show who I really am. And you know that it's like, so I'm cutting jokes and just being crass and everything else in between. But everything's good in my world. I have no complaints. Kids are doing good. Life's good. Cars are good. I have nothing else to say. What about you? What's your last 7 been like?
Yeah, no, I'm doing well, my friend. You know, actually, when we think about it, we actually haven't done a full update, you know, in the last couple of weeks, because the last 2 weeks we've had, you know, we've been fortunate to have guests on the show. So I'm going to cover, you know, in my weekly recap, kind of what's going on, you know, from a nutrition and training perspective. And, you know, I've been eating in a surplus for quite some time now. So I finished my last photo shoot prep at the end of September. So I've been in a surplus for over 8 months at this point. And the last month or so, I've hit like a bottleneck in terms of my appetite, where I'm not hungry for most of my meals. I'm having trouble getting down the amount of calories that I need to get in to continue gaining, which is over 4,000 calories at this point. And I've started to notice some, you know, biofeedback, and some of my health markers are starting to regress in terms of my digestion, even my blood pressure. Honestly, that's one thing that I always keep a really close eye on, because I come from a family of people that suffer from hypertension. So I'm right at the cusp of where it's starting to go beyond the cutoff I have set for myself, just from a health perspective. So what I'm going to be doing, you know, with that being said, this week I just started. So just yesterday, you know, today's Tuesday, yesterday being Monday, I just started a mini cut phase, which I'll be running for like the next 5 or 6 weeks based on my rate of progress and how well my biofeedback improves. And so really the plan going forward for me in terms of both nutrition and training perspective is to run this mini cut and to go into this deficit for the next 5 to 6 weeks so that I can improve my appetite. That's like one of my major focuses right now, because I have no hunger signaling. Like I'm just not hungry for my meals. Really? We've all been at that point. Yeah. Where you're just pushing food down and it's just, you know, it's almost like a drag at this point. You know, most of the time, you know, you're dieted down and you want the food, and then you get to a point where you've been in a surplus so long that you don't even want these meals, to say the least. And so I'm going to, you know, go into a deficit for the next 5 to 6 weeks, restore, you know, my appetite signaling. I'm going to pull down my blood pressure, which always improves when I lose weight, and especially when I lose body fat. And then I'm also going to drop off some of the body fat that I've accumulated throughout the course of this phase. And then once I finish this phase, I'll go back to building phase for the latter half of summer. So I'll get lean a little bit for summer, but this isn't, I want to make this clear. A mini cut is not not a full fat loss phase where you get shredded, but then I'll be in a better position. I'll have bought myself some runway to grow from implementing the strategic mini cut. So I'm looking forward to that. I just got started and it's just getting back in my routine. I laid out all my supplementation, all my diet stuff yesterday, and I was good to go. And I'm glad to be back in this routine. And honestly, thankful that I'm eating far less. You know what I mean? It's not only saving me from a meal prep perspective in terms of time, but also the time that I have to spend towards, even eating meals, because once these meals get to 100, 150 grams of carbs per sitting, I'm trying to eat intentionally. And so what I try to do is eat mindfully. And so I'm slowly chewing, and these meals are 20, 30 minutes at sometimes. So I'm looking forward to that. And then other than that, man, been a pretty good week so far. This past weekend was Mother's Day, so I spent some time with my mother. Got to get some quality time in. And besides that, dude, it's heating up over here. So this past weekend I went out to the boardwalk. I traveled out to Point Pleasant Boardwalk, which is a popular boardwalk in the Short Coast or in the East Coast. And so everything else is going well on my end, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the next couple months progress. I know you and I, just like you mentioned, that we'll be flying someone out, but we are looking to do, and honestly, let's throw this out into the ether. We are looking to do a Chasing Clarity seminar, whether, almost like an educational seminar. So we would love to hear from you guys, the interest that you guys have, and then also some topics that you guys would like us to cover, because it's going to be really based around our audience, our listenership, and the things that they want. And that's something that, we've had a lot of success in terms of both presenting, you being a host of the Physique Education Collective, and then myself being a contributor, where we've been able to cover topics that we get the most commonly asked questions about. So, this is another thing that we're going to be progressing towards, and I'm looking forward to doing that with you, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of like this is what I think we'll do is we'll make it an open gym on Friday, and you and I will be like, hey, we're going to be here at this time. And from here, we're going to go back to my house and make it just like maybe like a taco bar or something. Just swing by, hang out, chill with us, chat. And then Saturday we do the seminar at Iron House. Do a couple hours and then kick it off, have a workout with everybody, and then figure out a spot to go hit on the town nearby and go have a good time. So
as long as we don't end up in any of the bars that we ended up on my birthday.
No, those aren't my kind of jams, but I like that first place where it was outside. That's my kind of jam. That's where I usually go. I tend to go to patio stuff or places like that.
The first one was nice. I'll give you that.
Yeah, no, the other one's got a little crazy for me. I wasn't in the mood for it. But let's get into this. So the essential components of coaching, an introduction to what makes for a quality coach and a quality coaching experience. So I think that is the key word I want to circle here that we're going to discuss is quality. And, I've often discussed this because I'm an honest person. But the way to building quality about yourself and your product as a coach is one, walk the walk. So what you speak into the ether, you must be, or the universe will not give to you because it finds confliction at all points if you don't pay attention. But the other thing is asking honest feedback for your clients when they leave you about what you could do better. That's what's helped me make me a better coach over my 18 years. But B, what's your take on this, man? Like, what would you say is like what makes for a quality coach? What is a quality coaching experience?
Yeah, so let me open up a little bit with an introduction, because I've laid out for the format for this week all these different qualities, all these components that are essential to quality coaching, because you can be a coach and not embody these things, but you're not going to be a great coach, or you're going to be lacking certain skills, certain qualities, certain characteristics that are really going to allow you to be successful. And what we really see within the fitness industry, and this could be said about, actually, when we look at statistics, it's actually said about personal trainers that they have a very short shelf life. However, this is the same thing with online training. And so, you and I have been in this industry for a long period of time. You as a trainer, myself as an online coach and trainer before that. And, I'm sure you can attest to the fact that we've seen a lot of people come and go. And really that comes down to, maybe they didn't have an interest, but most of the time it's because they encountered some sort of failure throughout the process, or they didn't live up to the standards that they needed to hit in order to keep a client base, to be able to be successful and make a living off of this. So on this week's podcast, I wanted to dive into the topic of what true quality online coaching is, and have us share and expand on some of the most important components and qualities of coaching that we use on a daily basis with our own clients. And we've covered a lot of topics over the past year plus that we've been doing the show, but based on where the fitness industry is heading, I think this is one of the most important topics we can speak on, as with each passing year, the coaching industry gets more and more saturated, and the quantity of online coaches especially keeps going up. However, if we really analyze it and we really, critique things from an objective standpoint, just because the quantity has went up doesn't mean that the quality has went up in the same linear fashion. I'm sure you and I have had off-air chats about this. And so if anyone who's new to the show goes back to episode 1, and I encourage you guys to do so because it was a little bit rougher of a show format than we have now. However, if you guys listen to our initial intention behind starting the show, it was to set a higher standard for coaching and for educating others on a long form platform. And that's why we came together to do this. So today we're going to cover some of the most important qualities of online coaching and open up how we integrate these qualities in our own practices to help our clients become a better version of themselves and reach their goals, as that is the purpose of coaching. So throughout this episode, we're going to cover how we use our knowledge and teaching skills, our components like empathy, relatedness, and objective feedback to help those we work with level up their physiques, their health, their mindset, their knowledge around nutrition and training, and their habits and lifestyle as a whole. So really, when it comes down to it, we're going to cover all the things from our own experience, and then we can also touch on things that are reinforced in the literature and stuff. But really, when it comes down to it, this is us opening up about what we have seen work well with clients, what have drawn clients to us, and then also things that we've learned through our own experiences. So Jeff, you ready to dig into this one, my man?
I'm ready to get into this. So, this one we have bullet point 1: need to have knowledge, an ability to educate clients, and a desire to continue learning. I think this is always, to summarize quickly, I always say, if you're not like a student at heart, this industry might not be the best for you, because I've been at 18 years exchanges all the time. And if you're not paying attention to it, it'll pass you by.
Very true, my friend. Yeah, so really when it comes down to it, being an online coach is a multifaceted role that requires a lot more skills and qualities than many realize, especially when they first get into the game. As online coaches, or as coaches in general, we need to have a high level of knowledge on multiple levels and on a wide variety of topics related to things like nutrition, training, health, exercise science, physiology, psychology, and habit and behavior change. We need to have the ability to adapt to the client that we're working with and to be able to program in a manner that meets them where they're at and helps them reach their goals. We need to also have soft skills. And this is something that's often overlooked. And honestly, why you and I have always related to the fact that if you are starting in online coaching, you should have started, or if you're trying to get into online coaching, you should have started with some personal training, some one-on-one coaching, because I really think that that is why we have such great soft skills. And I'll speak on my own regard, that is what allowed me to initially connect with clients and then parlay that into an online format. Because if I wasn't able to read, people, or I wasn't able to pick up and make connections with others and really be able to get complex topics across to them in a clear manner in person, I would have never been able to do that as I have been online. And that really was what set the foundation for me. And so within the soft skills, we need to have those because we need to be able to translate in an online format and to be able to communicate in order to develop a relationship and rapport with our clients, and also to be able to get useful information across to them. However, the first thing we need to start with is our own education, as we can't truly help others achieve their goals if we aren't equipped with the knowledge to do so. So, one of the reasons I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point into my education is to expand upon my knowledge and skills and to be able to coach clients of all different backgrounds, different histories, different goals, and to be help them become a better version of themselves, whether that be to improve their physiques by building muscle or dropping body fat, improve their health, and mitigate some of the negative ramifications of the lifestyle they've been living and some of the decisions that they've made. So that could be someone that has developed insulin resistance from inadequate eating habits, or someone that comes to me and they're metabolically adapted, or they're suffering from these negative downsides of chronic dieting, or many other issues. And also to be able to help them improve their training performance and lifestyle as a whole. So the foundation to quality coaching, at least, starts with having a solid and expansive base of knowledge. But it's also about being able to apply the knowledge we have, as knowledge without application is useless. And that's something I always try to get across to, my mentees and people that I work with, or even coaches that ask for advice. And this is also where being able to educate clients come into the equation, as I found that, and I'm sure you could say the same, Jeff, the more that we educate our clients, the more that we inform them about the changes and the adjustments that we're going to be making to their nutrition and training program, and to the approach that we want to take to their lifestyle to mitigate certain things that they're dealing with. As far as I'm concerned, the better they understand the process, and that understanding usually leads to better compliance and thus better results. So for me, part of how I educate clients comes through our personal conversations, but the other part comes through other avenues such as social media and podcasts like this one, and the many others that I do. So what I try to do is, often I'll cover topics and questions that come to me directly from my own clients. And then what I aim to do in other formats is to expand on those in some other areas that we didn't cover directly. So for instance, if I have a client that comes to me about a particular, maybe digestion, they have some digestive issues that are very particular to them. They're dealing with gas bloating. Maybe they have a FODMAP intolerance. I may, have a full conversation with them about different things that we can utilize, maybe the elimination or the removal of certain gut irritants. We could go through a kill phase or whatever it may be. However, then I can also open up and generally I'm going to go through some of the basics too. Are you chewing your food? Like the importance of mastication and things of that sort. But then within a podcast, maybe I'll talk about, the importance of chewing your food, the importance of mindfulness, in terms of eating, the importance of getting into a parasympathetic state before eating so that we're in rest and digest rather than in the sympathetic, state of fight or flight where digestion is going to be impeded because you don't have, blood going to the gut. And so this is a way to utilize two different methods and to really get it across to them. And I do this because we mostly learn through two main methods, and those two are through visual and auditory means. So visual learning refers to seeing or even reading information and interpreting it in that way, whereas auditory means learning through listening. So by having email conversations and then following up with social media posts and podcasts, I'm able to get information across to clients in multiple formats. And so my goal with all the educational things that I do with my clients is to empower these individuals with information and education that's useful, as I find that many coaches, and we can open up about this, you and I, Jeff. If you really think about what most coaches do, is a lot of them spend their time making, whether it be podcasts or social media content that's controversial, and it may hit on the hottest topic that's on, TikTok at the time. However, a lot of times, if you really think about it, sometimes I'll see, a popular coach make a post and I'm like, do you work with anyone that has that condition? Or, are you really dealing with that issue? Like, how much does this relate to your clientele? And usually they're spending a lot of time like debunking some like famous influencer on TikTok on, that's making a video about what nutrient's going to kill us next. But really, when it comes down to it, I think our time as coaches is better spent educating others, which that really is my main priority as a coach and practitioner. So when it comes down to it, like social media, I really use that for a very particular, format or for a particular usage, because I think that's what's going to benefit most of my clientele the most. And so when it comes down to it, and another huge benefit of coaching, besides having the knowledge and skills needed to do the job, is also having the desire to continue learning and educating ourselves. And, when we really think about it, the best coaches, they love what they're doing. And I'll tell you from my own perspective, I feel blessed to have found a career and field that I'm passionate about. Because if we think about most people, like even our own clients, like when we have discussions with people, like Jeff, you always talk about the example of going out to your regular American mall and like the conversations and the interactions that you have. And when we really think about it, if you were to talk to most people about their career, they just look at their work as a job and they don't give it their all. They clock in, they clock out, and then they're done with it. And they don't even think about it the rest of the course of the day. And this is something that you and I have spoken about many times, but I don't even have off days. And the reason I say that is not only do I work 7 days a week, but even when I'm not working, when I'm not directly working with clients, I'm constantly trying to get better. And I know you're of the same the same mentality, because really when it comes down to it, we're always training ourselves. We're always reading research, or in your case, you're reading books. We're always, I'm always watching educational lectures, and I'm trying to find better methods to help myself and others. And I do this because when we think about it, like knowledge comes from multiple places. Knowledge comes from training and dieting and coaching myself, which is an opportunity to experiment on our own. Knowledge comes from working with others. So training, coaching, and really interacting with clients one-on-one, and really being able to, decipher the individual differences between clients and to learn about them. And then knowledge comes from, studying, reading, going to seminars, and then, taking courses and attending conferences like we put on with the Physique Education Collective. And each of these activities are a third of the equation. So we want to devote time to all three of them. And I also think that looking to learn more is a great way to serve more. And that's what I found a huge benefit in investing into these things. So, when it really comes down to it, I think as coaches, we really need to be willing to make investments. And I'm sure you could say the same, like, we could speak on educational experiences that we've had that have made us better coaches. You know what I mean, Jeff?
I think in all honesty, the reason I read so many books is because it's a lot easier nowadays to convince someone to listen to an Audible than ever before. So if I find a book that translates well for me to be able to translate information down, then that's how I use it. I think the bigger part of what I've found in seminars I go to them and educational things and certifications. Like if I learn one new thing, great. But for me, it's really the networking,
I agree
because
with
of
that.
who you meet, just because of the people you get exposed to. You get to find out all the weird stuff that's out there. You know what I mean? Like I would never have known all the weirdness until I met Vince. And I
Absolutely.
tell that, you know
That
what
is
I
a
mean? And
fact.
I tell them, I'm like, but he wouldn't know about all the psychedelic stuff without me, talking about
Absolutely.
all that openly. So I think that that's kind of where my thought process goes. But I want to touch on one thing.
Mhm.
When you're trying to have a desire and you're trying to educate your clients and things like that, do you think that the best way for a coach to do that is like, see, so for example, I swore a client would never leave me because of education. Like a client
Okay.
could leave me because they couldn't afford me. A client could leave me because of XYZ, but never because I didn't educate them enough. Right. Do you think that most coaches spend too much time trying to look smart on the education side rather than figure out how to connect the education side to the clientele? Because I see that all the time. I see people who have no business talking about stuff they're talking about. And I'm just like, who are you trying to talk to here? Because I just don't think that that goes hand in hand. So I was curious what your thoughts are on that.
Absolutely. And you know what I really tend to see? I tend to see, I mean, there's multiple categories of coaches, but really having interacted, connected, and met so many coaches over the years, what I really see is we have two different types of coaches. We have those that are really client centered, and then we have those, and it could be two coaches, like coaches that are both, we can look at two categories of coaches that are both invested into educating themselves. And some learn things just to know them. So they just want to be able to talk about trendy topics and to be able to talk about what's hot and get their reels going and things of that sort. And that's what I was trying, kind of alluding to before, is that a lot of times, like I'll hear someone start, get on a podcast and talk about a really niche topic. And I'm like, how many people do you work with? And you never hear them talk about like the experiences that they've had with their clients, how they utilize this strategy with their clients. It's just kind of like it's information for information's sake. And that's all good and well if that is just what you want to do. If you're just an educator, if you have become a college professor or researcher, by all means. But really when it comes down to it, like I mentioned, knowledge is useless without application. And honestly, I would not spend hours of my day and have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point on learning if it didn't affect my clientele. So I'll tell you, I've taken it from two different perspectives where I've invested heavily into educational courses. I've spent a lot of time and energy into reading research, but I also, a lot of the most memorable or most educational experiences I had were learning from other practitioners. So during the first, 5, 6 years of my coaching career, I didn't go to all of the, you know, NSCA and NASM, conferences and things like that, where they were just putting up research presentations. I went to learn from practitioners. So I went multiple times and learned from the Mountain Dog himself, John Meadows. I went to go train with the hypertrophy coach, Joe Bennett. I've seen Dr. Scott Stevenson in person, Alan Aragon, who's been a mentor of mine. I've went to see Dr. Mike Israel. I went when Eugene Teo, the first time he ever came to the States, I flew out to meet him and train with him. Guys like Stan Efferding, Ben Pakulski, Jordan Shallow, these are all guys that are very intelligent. But hear what I said, all of these guys have spent decades in the trenches. So during the initial part of my career, that's what I was invested into. And now these other educational, opportunities are more of what you're saying, where it's more of a networking opportunity. It's I can gain one or two things. I'm not going to learn, like I'm not going to reteach myself all these different things because we already have a very solid base of or foundation of knowledge. But really, when it comes down to it, there are a lot of people that I almost think that they're trying to get across. And I've been guilty of this myself, so I'll put myself on the spot where they're trying to appear smart. They just want people to think they're intelligent, and sometimes they miss their audience. So they're almost speaking to other coaches, and that's one thing. If you are working with other coaches, so for instance, a large portion of the client roster that I have are other coaches or other fitness professionals or other gym owners. So I do speak to that audience quite frequently. We do the podcast and we often talk about higher level topics. However, if you are someone that your only clientele is Gen Pop, but you're speaking at such a high level that it's almost like you're reading off a research paper, that's not going to hit home with these individuals. That's not going to hit home with, Lifestyle Lisa and Gen Pop Jim. They're not going to be able to understand you. And that's why we came together for this podcast, to be able to clarify complex topics, because there are a lot of people that they're incredibly intelligent, and they're able to recite research and do different things. So that's where I have an immense amount of respect for that. But they've never worked with anyone. They've never applied these things. And that's really the differentiation. Like, for instance, there's many clients that could tell you that they can ask me about research studies when we're in the gym training together. And I can, recall off the top of my head. But the only reason I can do that is because I've linked the knowledge that I've learned through certain research studies and I've applied it to my own clients. And that real world application is what's reinforced that knowledge into my head because I've utilized it on a daily basis. And so, when we speak about insulin sensitivity or energy flux or steps, or we talk about different concepts that I've, expanded upon over the course of years, the reason I know these things and I'm able to recall them off the top of my head, is because I've utilized them on a daily basis with clientele. I've looked and I've experimented with myself, and I've walked the walk and I've talked the talk. And that's really what has reinforced these skills and that skill acquisition, where we combine research with experience.
You bringing up John. I went to that John and Scott seminar in Columbus, the Arnold Classic weekend. That was such a good seminar. Were you at that one?
I was not at that one. I went to go see John twice. So I went to go see him in Columbus one year, which was a training seminar. And then I went to go see him and Stan Efferding did a nutrition and training seminar in near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I went to that as well. And honestly, at that time, the first time I went to go see John, I want to say it was 2014, 2015. And, I was, very early into, I started coaching in 2013. So I was early into his career. And I remember all of my friends, saving up money to go, spring break essentially. And so, it was a couple years out of college and they were still going on those trips. And I took that money that I was going to spend on that. And I went to go see John Meadows and do a seminar and train with him. And it was thousands of dollars at that point. And there were so many people in my circle. And that's when I really realized, early on, like maybe I'm not in the right circle right now because these people think I'm crazy for what I'm doing, but I'm trying to invest in something I'm passionate about and that I want to make a career. And, I was in the supplement industry at that time, but I was, still, coaching was a budgeting industry at that point. So 2014, 2015, but I believed in this. And so I'm so fortunate, or I'm so thankful that I invested thousands of dollars to go see John. And I'm sure you could say the same thing because now we can look back on the positives of that experience, knowing that we can never get that again.
Yeah, I will say this. John was cool, invited me up to Columbus a couple of times to train with him. I knew him on professional muscle. He thought my story was just super cool. He was just like, it's so cool because he was a comic book guy. So Unbreakable with the guy with OI was a comic book thing. So he kind of like was nerded out by it. So it was interesting, but RIP, man. I always miss that man whenever I think about him. We talked about now knowledge, ability to educate clients, kind of bled over. Do we want to talk about need to have knowledge, a desire to continue learning, and an ability to educate clients? We want to touch up on point number 2 because we've kind of gone back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, let's go on to number 2 for sure.
Okay. Need to have knowledge and an ability to educate clients and a desire to continue learning. I think we kind of chopped into a lot of that with what we just said, but whatever you got to finish up on, let's do it. And then we'll get to number 3.
No, I meant point 3, my man.
See, I was counting that number 1.
I didn't count that one.
So we're going to the ability to be empathetic. Is that the one we're going to? The ability to be empathetic and relate to clients. This one's hard.
No. You know what? This is a huge skill, to be honest with you. And really when it comes down to it, I think one of the most essential components of coaching is emotional intelligence and having the ability to be empathetic to the clients that we work with, as empathy allows us to better understand our clients and where they're coming to us at. And that's a major component. It's not about just thinking about where they want to get to. It's about coming, meeting them in the middle and really seeing where they're at the present moment when we link up. And it's always easier to help a client when we've been in their shoes and we know what they're going through or have a similar experience, whether it be with ourselves or that we've walked other clients through that process. And I've, found over my years coaching, the more that I share my own experiences, the mistakes I've personally made and the lessons I've learned along my own journey with my clients, the better I'm able to not only help them get to their goals, but also a huge thing that I'm really able to do. And I've really seen this time and time again, is I'm able to help them avoid making some of the same mistakes I've made or mistakes that I've seen others make. And that's a huge thing. If I could, really advance their learning curve to a point where they're not making the same common, mistakes, or they're not wasting their time spinning their wheels as many of us have done. And, as I did when I didn't have, higher level coaching, that's a huge win in and of itself. And then another core component of coaching is being able to relate with our clients. So relating to clients helps build a better relationship and create a greater connection with them, which is important because we need to show them that we understand their situation and can help them through each phase they're in, having been through these phases ourselves and having helped others successfully attain what they're trying to achieve. So when someone comes to me and they want fat loss, I've guided hundreds of people through that fat loss process. And it's not only about the physiological process of oxidizing body fat and going through that whole physiological system of fat loss, it's also the emotional side, the psychological side, the understanding of having been there myself. And so showing empathy and relating to our clients are ways to show we care about our clients. And that's a huge component. And as a wise co-host once told me, no one will care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's a huge thing. And that's my man, Jeff Black, was the one that told me that before my first PEC presentation. And that's huge. Really, when it comes down to it, we need to show our clients we care. And two ways to do that is to be empathetic towards them and their situations, the obstacles that they come through or they come up to, and helping them through that process, but also relating to them. And the big thing that I've really learned is I had a lot of very um, well-educated coaches coming up, and I learned a ton from them. But also, a lot of times when I was looking for a connection with them, they didn't open up about themselves. And actually, I had one mentor that told me, never tell clients about yourself. It's all about them, which I understand. However, early on in my career, I would never open up to them about how I could relate to them or how I'd been in similar situations. And I honestly think that that was an injustice to them, because not only did they not get to know me, but also there was times that I could have just shared a story and really helped them through that situation. And I didn't, because I always wanted to just make it about the client. So I would always just try to offer solutions. And I was always solution oriented, which is still my mindset in terms of we are problem solvers as coaches. However, there's a moment where we could take a step back, relate to them, share an experience, share the fact that we've been there, and then help them solve that, give them potential solutions to their problems and walk them through that process. Also letting them know, hey, I've been here. I've gotten through this, and here are some strategies that I've utilized myself or I've utilized with clients, and let's see which one works best for your lifestyle and your current situation.
I wanted to chime in one thing, about when you're trying to get empathetic, a good way to be empathetic would be to develop your leadership skill. And what Brandon says is true. If you let clients pierce the veil with you and like see who you really are, they will have more reason to open up to you and therefore want to work with you and take your advice and all those things, because they're like, hey, Brandon share with me, I'm going to share with Brandon. There's a trust building that comes on. But historically speaking, if you're going to grow your empathy, a lot of that can happen through leadership, because you start thinking through the lens of how do I serve other people better. And that is something that I think that all coaches could double down on. And I think this industry would be a better place for it, if I was just being honest. I think that's the hardest part for our industry to translate is leadership. I want to talk about how quality coaching increases one believes in themselves. Like, this is a big thing. As a coach, there's a difference between a coach and a trainer, right? Like, a trainer is just telling you what to do. A coach is getting you to believe that you could do the plan that you've been given. And that's why I tell people, if you're a good coach, you should be able to coach people through their best times and their worst times. And then be able to keep them as a client during the times they're bored, when they need that maintenance phase for about 3, 4, 5 months and they're getting antsy and all these things. That's the mark of a good coach, I always think. And, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, when it comes down to this topic, I really think that quality in coaching can improve and increase multiple qualities, including things like self-efficacy, autonomy, and competence. And these qualities, or developing these qualities in clients, results in our clients believing in themselves and their goals more than when they first came to us. And that's a major component of quality coaching. When we look at these different qualities that we help them develop, these are really going to help them not only believe in their ability to attain their goals, but their likelihood of attaining those goals. And that's a big difference. It's different between saying you're going to do something and actually doing it and being able to follow through with it. So when it comes down to these qualities that we can enhance in our clientele, if we look at self-efficacy, that is the belief that you are capable of reaching your goals and is a quality that is predictive of success. So when we actually look in the literature, those that have high self-efficacy are more likely to achieve the goals that they have set out. And we can increase this by helping clients acknowledge and track wins in progress. So how I really see this is I generally find that pointing out other areas of life where a client is successful in is a helpful way to reinforce them the fact that they can succeed in their fitness goals as well. Because a lot of times I'll have clients come to me that may have failed multiple times over, and that's in the back of their mind. So for instance, I may have someone come to me with a chronic dieting history, and this is very common with me. Or, the opposite end of the spectrum, it's someone that has tried to gain muscle but has always overshot and just gained more fat mass than muscle mass, and they're really hesitant to go back into a building phase. So on both ends of the spectrum, these are people that have tried the process themselves, and in their minds, they've failed. they haven't gotten to their objective. They haven't attained the success that they're looking for. So in their mind, they're lacking the self-efficacy that they can do this. And so at the same time, I want to know about your career. I want to know about your household, your family, all these other aspects of your life. And I ask those things because I want to get to know a client, but also a lot of times these are extremely successful people in other avenues. And so I'm able to point out to them, listen, you have the discipline, you have the skills, you have the intelligence, you have the competence and the self-efficacy in this area of business. You are a successful entrepreneur. You are able to stay regimented and disciplined in this regard. We can do the same thing with your nutrition. We can parlay those skills. And the same thing goes for competitors that I've worked with. A lot of times they're very, initially when they come to me, they're very narrow-mindedly focused on the stage and they have all this discipline and all these great habits towards enhancing their physique. But a lot of times it doesn't translate into their jobs, into their career pursuits and things of that sort. So I often try to get them to take the lessons that they've learned through a prep or in the gym and apply that to other areas of their lives to be more successful as a whole individual, not just a competitor, but also as a son, as a parent, as a partner, as an entrepreneur, all these other aspects. And so then the next component would be autonomy. And that is where, or is when we feel that we have control of our life and are able to align our actions with our goals and ambitions. And so true client-centered coaching is about playing a role in our client's journey and supporting their autonomy as we're a guide. We're not a dictator. And I think a lot of coaches sometimes forget that, to be honest with you. It's like, do as I say, don't question me. This was very prominent in coaching, especially a couple of years ago, where people were just kind of like, you're going to do as I say, you either run the plan or you run the play or you're not on my team. And that's something that I really hope that we get rid of, to be honest with you, because coaching should be looked at as a partnership. It's a collaborative effort, and the goals are something that we work on as a team. So whenever it comes to a client's goals and what direction we head in, my goal is to inform them and lay out options for them. But I consult the client about the direction we're headed in and have them determine their priorities, as I'm here to guide and empower clients through education, not to pressure them. And that's a big thing that we have to remember as coaches. We're looking out for their best interests, but it's not about imposing our beliefs, our goals upon the client itself. And lastly, quality coaching improves a client's competence, which is their skills at a particular activity and knowledge on a topic or on a subject. And so we can help clients achieve competence by improving their knowledge and habits around things like nutrition, training, stress management, sleep, and health as a whole. And I believe in empowering clients through education and helping them make informed decisions. And I've seen that improving all three of these qualities increases a client's belief in themselves and their ability to attain the goals that they came to me for.
How does quality coaching increases a client's belief in themselves? No,
That's what we just went through.
No, we talked about one's belief in themselves. Now we got a client's belief in themselves.
Well,
I think they trickle together. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's their, by showing them that they have self-efficacy, by showing them that they have autonomy to make decisions within their own life. And then also we guide them through that process. They're going to be more in line with knowing that they have the abilities to do something. We're there to guide them through the process, support them, and then be that, this will be the next point is we'll be that person to be objective with them, provide them with objective feedback and help guide them, and also be able to acknowledge when they're doing well, and then also areas that they need improvement upon.
Do you find that that's the toughest part of the job for people to succeed at?
You're talking about feedback?
Yeah, giving feedback, like, the importance of providing objective feedback. Like this morning, I had a client who was upset how he looked in the year, and I was like, well, bro, like you spent 15 years being one way, and you really thought that 1 year would be another. So part of me for sounding like an asshole, but and he wrote me back. He's like, thanks for that objective feedback, because I wasn't hearing that from my friend. And I was like, fair. Okay, cool. So what do you think?
Yeah, honestly, I think that this is one of the most critical and important components of coaching, because although we are on the same team as our clients, we're not there to be a yes man, and we're not there to just hype them up. There's, really when it comes down to it, I want to provide my clients with both encouraging feedback, but also constructive criticism to make them better. So when it comes down to it, we need to be able to be honest with them. We need to have an open dialogue with them. We have to have open communication, honesty, transparency. They need to feel comfortable coming to us and being objective with us. If we make a decision that they're not in line with, I need a client to be able to come to me and say, hey, listen, that's not really in line with what I want to do or with what I can feasibly attain. As well as when a client's coming to me and they're looking for a particular goal, I need to be objective enough to know when and how to get it across to them that either they're headed in the right direction or not. So kind of this is how I've always done it. I call this a compliment sandwich, Jeff. And so really how I format like my feedback to a client is I start with a compliment, then I go to a critique, and then I end with a compliment. So really, how this looks is I'll acknowledge what a client did well that week, the progress that's been made, but I'll also provide constructive feedback on what areas need improvement and what I want them to focus on in that upcoming week. So I'm acknowledging, hey, listen, you had multiple wins. These are the good things that you did. I'm proud of you for this. Or these are things that have contributed to you getting closer to the goal. However, there's always things with no client's perfect. Let's be honest, even ourselves. And so there are always components of a check-in where a client there's some room margin for error, you know what I mean? Or there's some room for improvement. And that's where we need to be objective enough. We can't just overlook those things because we don't want to have carded conversations. And oftentimes I find that one of the things that I've gotten best with over the last couple of years, especially, has been on having those hard conversations. Because really, when it comes down to it, people are paying us for results and then also to be someone else in their corner that isn't their family, isn't their friends, that are either giving them all the, all the hype man, yes man's type of things in the world, or giving them negative feedback. So we need to kind of have a balance of both. But I think when it comes down to coaching, what it really comes down to is we need to be able to cater our approach to feedback and how we deliver it, honestly. And we need to cater it to the individual client themselves. Because I'll tell you for one thing, and I'll generally have this conversation with clients when they first come on board. Do you want it just straight? Or do you want me to, wrap it in a bow and, send it off as a gift? You know what I mean? It really matters their communication style. Some people you can be blunt and honest with, they got to be called out on, what they're doing wrong or things that they're not meeting their potential. And that's really where I come to with a lot of my contest prep clients or a lot of my competitors. They need to be just a lot of their personalities. They're type A individuals. They just want it cut and dry. And then there's other people that you have to be softer with, or you have to be more lax with your approach in terms of how you deliver it so that they don't feel like you're putting excess pressure on them or you're, putting them down essentially.
Yeah, I do. Every client I work with, I talk to them on the phone. So I tell them how I am. And I'm like, hey, I'm just a direct person. I give direct communication. Are you cool with that? And I tell them up front, I'm like, I'm not going to be like, hey, fuck you because you didn't do da 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 da. It's just more like, if you mess up, I'm going to point it out and then we're going to move forward because that's what you do. So, but I agree. I think that if you're going to connect as a coach, you have to understand how, like for me, do I take my directness and be a chameleon with every client? Because that's what you're really trying to do.
Honestly, that's a great way to put it. And often that was in my previous career, I dealt with hundreds of accounts within, the sports nutrition business that I ran. And you always have to change how you approach a client conversation, a customer conversation, things of that sort. So I really got used to being able to communicate in multiple fashions. And the way that I talk to you is not going to be the way that I talk to another friend of mine. We all have different relationships, and the same thing can be said about our clients. So I always keep that in mind. I really try to take the client's personal psychology into account, as well as their personality in general, and really try to cater how I communicate and still being honest, still being true to my values and my ethics as a coach and as a man. However, how I'll get it across them, how I'll communicate will be catered towards that individual person.
Yeah, I understand that 100%. The importance of walking the walk and leading from the front. This is like literally a whole podcast episode in itself, Brandon.
I know this is my favorite part of the conversation, my man.
I'm gonna let you hit this one, and I'll button up what I might want to say. But I will say that this much before you kick this off. I can't tell you how many people have hired me just because they appreciate the fact I am who I am and I do what I say I'm going to do. And that goes a long way. So go ahead and chime in, man. Let's see what we get.
No, I agree 100%. I think being a man of our word is one thing that we have in our favor as far as coaching and as far as, men in general, because there's a lot of people in our society that they just don't have a good allegiance or alignment with their actions and their ambitions. A lot of people talk a lot, but they don't, actually walk the walk. And that's why this is so important. This is something that I often speak to my clients about. And I get very similar feedback that clients will often come to me because they know I've been through it and I continue to put myself, through the same things that I ask them of them. I do myself. And so I would never ask of a client something that I wouldn't be willing to do myself. And so as a physique coach, I believe it's extremely important to take care of our own physiques, especially to lead clients from the front and show that we can not only talk the talk, but actually walk the walk. And this allows clients to know that we are not only knowledgeable, but competent and adamant about executing the habits, behaviors, and actions that we preach about and encourage them to execute on.
Mhm.
And so in the online space, generally the first impression that we're going to make on a potential client is a physical one. If you really think about they're seeing our content, they're seeing our physiques, and it's based on how well we take care of our own physique and our own health. So I believe that a few things that coaches need to do is we need to lead by example and be a source of motivation to our clients. So we need to be able to show that we are able to do what we are asking of them. We need to practice what we preach and not just talk the talk, but actually walk the walk. We need to train ourselves to be able to train others. There's some guys like coaches, you look at them, it doesn't even look like it's not on their feed. Their physique doesn't show it. It's like, dude, you've never trained. Like, how are you, they're talking theory, but they're not actually applying that to themselves, let alone like, how are you going to help anyone else? How are you going to know how to train someone in the gym if you've never trained a single human being alive and in person? And we can't just know the theory without having a knowledge of how to apply the theory and actually have experience practically applying it to others in the real world. We also need to have achieved with others and yourself the results your clients are looking for. We need to have had, to have achieved some level of success and also that level of success that our clients are looking to emulate. So I think it's really necessary and it's essential that as a coach, we train regularly. We maintain a well-balanced diet. We come off as professional. Part of professionalism is actually doing what you tell others to do within your profession. If I went to a financial advisor and their finances were a mess, I would never hire them. The same thing could be said about a coach. If you're not able to take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of others? You need to also have a passion for helping others, and you need to show that you take care of yourself. Just like I was alluding to, like, we can't take care of others or help others take care of themselves if we can't do the same for ourselves. And that's really just being a man of your word and really aligning, the things that your actions with your goals. And I do want to say that I understand that coaching goes far beyond the actual quality of a physique as a coach. So I'm not saying that, by no means am I saying that the person with the best physique is the best coach, because that is definitely not the case. There are a lot of people with phenomenal genetics and phenomenal physiques that don't know anything about coaching. They don't have the soft skills. They don't have the actual knowledge. They have genetics and they've relied off that, and good and well for them. And so I'm not saying that, you know, quality coaching is only based on the quality of a physique, but I do think that staying in shape and fitness and like the fitness level we maintain as a fitness professional is a representation of our knowledge and our application of that knowledge. Because think about it, if we can't improve our own physique, how can others count on us to help them do the same? So when it comes to coaching, I think as a client looking for a coach, you should consider your goals. And then if the person you're interested in working with has done what you want to do. So for example, if your goal is to get shredded, you should look for a coach who has gotten lean themselves and who has gotten others shredded, which shows that they have both the personal and professional experience with attaining the goal that you're looking for. And I think this is especially important for competitors looking to get on stage or a client looking to do a photo shoot. You need someone that has went through that process. So for coaches like you and I, Jeff, we've been through this process, the process of getting stage lean or getting photo shoot ready countless times. So we know what it takes. We know what it feels like, which is really important from a relatability standpoint. And we're able to walk our clients through the process. But if a coach has never been there, there's no amount of books, articles, or YouTube content and videos that they can consume to be able to truly relate to what the process of getting peeled is like. And so really when it comes down to it, there's so many multiple facets that we need to have as a coach. But really, if I really had to encompass, one of the most important ones is not only talking the talk, so having the knowledge, but also walking the walk in terms of how you actually apply it to yourself.
I think I had a buddy of mine. He said, "You're probably the most routine, disciplined person I've ever seen in my whole life." And he goes, "But that's the only reason you can tell me what to do, and I'll listen to you." And I don't think you have to be as regimented as me. Mine became because of childhood stuff I went through, and I just got into it so young. It is what it is, right? But I do think that when it comes to being a coach, you just want to look the part, you want to act the part, you want to be the part, you want to be able to display what all you're saying you could do. And I think that comes a lot from leading from the front. If you're going to be in the front, you're going to be the first one to get hit in the arrows from the back. Like I look at Caesar and Brutus as a completely different situation. I look at Caesar as showing the ultimate display of leadership. He turned his back to Brutus because he trusted him with the knife. That is leadership. You're turning your back and trusting people behind you to do what they do with the knife. All you could do is what sets you free and go forward. So that's what leading from the front means to me. But I want to get into the help clients set and attain goals if you're ready for that, because I
Absolutely, my
do
man.
think that that's a key thing with coaches. If I have people who want to lose 30, 20, 30 pounds in 6, 8 weeks, I'm just like, that's not happening. I can't do that for you. And I think it's having a boundary to understand what you're willing to work with on clients and what a reasonable goal. So I think that's reasonable to help clients understand, like, hey, you can set this great goal of wanting to look great for your wedding anniversary, but you're going to have to be like really perfect. Like, I mean, like perfect.
Mhm.
Helping them understand the deadlines and the work that they need to do really helps bring things into play. And that's why I like tracking data and doing Loom. So when my clients check in weekly, I can show them, like, hey, see where you're missing your protein, see where you're missing your carbs, see where you're missing your fat, see where your weekends get a hold of you and you lose. Like, these are the things that are going to put you further away from your goals. So we need to kind of keep every week I'm recalibrating goals for them from the onset of the new goals. And I actually have a goal note in my trackers that I keep track of with them. But how are some ways that you work with clients and helping them set and attain goals? Like, besides just from the tracking data points and things I went over, like, how do you really go about the conversations with them, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you really think about it, like why this is so important is because people come to coaches because they have goals that are difficult to achieve and they otherwise wouldn't be able to on their own. So no one comes to us with a goal that's so easy that they don't need any help at all because if it was the case, they wouldn't be seeking out a professional. So like you mentioned, as a coach, one of our biggest roles is to be able to set goals and also realistic timeline for those goals. And we need to also provide them with a better approach to take towards their goals so that they can be more successful than they've been in the past. So really when it comes down to goal setting and then goal attainment, there's multiple pronged processes that I take with clients. So the first thing that I'm looking for is determining their why. I want to get to the root of the intrinsic drive because I don't want to know, I want to look good, on the beach or I want to look good on Instagram, whatever it may be. I don't want these intrinsic motivators because that is going to, motivation wanes. It ebbs and flows. And if you are only motivated in the moment that you come to me and you're relying off that to be the driving force in your physique transformation, it's not going to last. And so I
Mm.
want to really know, like, for instance, if I have a parent come to me and they really want to be able to be healthier, to improve their internal health, improve their physical health, to be able to be more active in their children's lives, or to be able to, go out and coach their kids' soccer league or something of that sort, that is going to be something that I'm going to put into their file. And when they're having tough weeks or when we're really hitting some stagnation in the process, it's going to be something that I can remind them about. Like, listen, we're working towards this goal and you're continually making progress. You've hit, a fork in the road at this point. However, I want you to keep pushing and we're going to, make some modifications to the program to keep you progressing. But remember your internal drive, remember your kids, remember these health improvements that we're looking for. And I'm setting multifaceted goals. So I don't just look for physique goals. I look for physique goals, performance goals. I look for personal goals. I look for lifestyle goals that they have, process oriented goals. And so I want them to have multiple focuses throughout the course of a phase because when we really think about it, say someone's in a weight loss phase, every single week is not going to be a victory. No one's going to linearly lose weight the same amount. So for instance, if you started a weight loss phase off and you're losing 1 pound per week for the first 4 weeks, it's not going to, go like that for the next 16 weeks. So it's not like you're going to linearly lose weight loss like that because the body's adaptive. And so there's highs, there's lows, just like in any aspect of life. The same thing happens with our scale weight trajectory or a fat loss process. And so within that, I want them to have other goals that we can, focus on and track wins on. And so that's a big thing for me. It's tracking wins with clients, being able to reinforce the progress that they're making, being objective within that feedback, but also helping them recalibrate some of their goals. So for instance, there are times where we've set a certain specific goal or they come to me with a specific goal and sometimes we have to be the honest and upfront person that they're not ready to take on that goal. So sometimes really from the outset of the relationship it is, hey, I want to go into a fat loss phase, but I'm looking over the lab markers and their internal health is horrendous. And so that's where we have to recalibrate the goals and realize that right now is not the most advantageous time to go after this goal, to go pursue that goal. And right now we need to work on your internal health, and that's what I would utilize a primer phase for before we go tackle a more extrinsic or a more externally focused physique related goal. So I think that really when it comes down to coaching, we're not only there to guide them through the process, give them a program, give them adjustments, and help them navigate the process, the highs and lows, the obstacles and the bottlenecks that they face along the way, but we're also there to recalibrate some of those goals in terms of whether it is a good goal to pursue or not at this current moment. It's not that you can't go for fat loss. It's that right now, I want to set you up for success. And if we go right into a fat loss phase, when you are someone that has metabolic resistance, where you have chronic diet adaptations from, cyclical dieting throughout the course of the last 10 years, we could go after this goal, but you're probably going to hit more obstacles in the road, more stagnation, more plateaus than if you had just taken the time to really invest the time, energy, and attention towards improving your health, restoring some of your ability to eat more, to upregulate your energy expenditure, to undo and reverse some of the metabolic adaptations you've sustained. And then we can look into going after that initial goal that you had, but it's going to be much more productive this time.
Uh you say so many good things in such eloquent ways. I guess I've gotten so cut down to bare minimums. Maybe writing a book did that to me. But I do think above all else, my one advice to anyone who is listening, if you're a client and you hire someone, you're an idiot if you don't listen to what they're trying to say, if you believe them to be qualified and they're helping you set these goals. Don't let your ego continually ruin the progress you could make. Ego is the most damning thing when it comes to setting goals. And I can say that in business because what I thought would happen with Iron House in 3 years realistically took me like 7 to do. So I say that there's a lot of things.
I think there's a real lesson to be learned in that, because had you rushed the process, had you tried to rush your way there, it may not have come to fruition like it has now. And so you've taken your lumps, but you also learned many lessons along that way. And now where you're at 7 years into the process or 8 years into the process, you've learned so much and you're so much more successful than you could have ever imagined. And I know that for a fact because we've talked about your vision board and where you thought you would be, say 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and you are much further along the process. So maybe in that condensed time period, when we look and say, we'll look at 3 years as a short term, and then we'll look at 7 or 8 years as a longer term goal. Maybe in those 3 years, when you got to that 3 year mark, you said, fuck, I'm not where I thought I would be. I'm not where I wanted to be. But then when you look back, and hindsight's always 2020. But when you look back and you're 8 years into this process and you realize that you've exceeded every business goal that you ever had, that's a win. And that's all that matters. When you look at the scoreboard, you've run up the scoreboard on yourself.
I agree. I agree 100%. And I think that's how I look at OI. Like, it's a sick thing. And like, I'm quietly very private about it. But that's once I look back and I started meeting people with OI and started seeing it with the internet. I went, holy fucking shit. What did I do? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And when you kind of get to that, and I tell everybody, and it was just through nothing, just the belief in myself, and there were belief in other people who they had in me, which goes back to what you said. You have to change your circle out before you find that shit. But let's talk about the last one, being passionate about coaching. There's one thing that I tell everybody, I can teach anyone how to be a personal trainer, but I can't teach you to serve, and I can't teach you to be passionate about caring to serve, and passionate about your education, and passionate about getting up every day and doing your cardio and doing your workouts, and making sure your meals are there and making sure you're taking care of yourself to the level you expect your clients. But I think ultimately, man, passion, it's a mixed bag to me. And let me give you what I'm saying. I think you have to be passionate about the pursuit of mastery, not passionate about the pursuit of being in this industry and enjoying every day. When it comes to your work, you're probably going to, if you enjoy 80% of the time, I think you got yourself a good dig in life. You know what I mean? But really, the passion for our industry and the passion about coaching to me comes down to the pursuit of mastery, the pursuit of excellence, the pursuit of saying like, hey, I'm going to get up today and find something new that I didn't know before, or take this idea and really think on it and expand on it and kind of go from there. So what is it to you? Like, let's talk about passion about coaching, because it's probably different, your view than mine.
No, absolutely. I think really when it comes down to my viewpoint on this topic is there is nothing I'm more passionate about. And I know that for a fact because I've been talented in other things. I left a career that I invested 14 years of my life, and I was very successful in it. I led, very large companies. I was a national sales. I was the highest, sales, director that I could be at that point. I hit, the top of the food chain in terms of the industry that I was in, and I left all of that. I left the security. I left the large salary. I left the commission and everything else that went with it, the health insurance, everything, the stability for my family, because I fucking love this. And I'll tell you, and I've never been. I always say, like, looking back, we're almost a year at this point that I've been, on my own in terms of having left the corporate industry and having done, been, full-time online with coaching. And I wouldn't have done that. And if I didn't have a passion for it, first and foremost, because I'm a very conservative person and I always put my family's stability as well as their, I guess, their needs above my own. And so I'll always prioritize them over me. And so being able to provide for them was my first and foremost priority in all aspects of my life. And that's why I stayed with the career that I had for so long. However, this is my greatest passion. I knew that. And came to a fork in the road last year where I knew that I needed to choose one or the other. And I'll say the same thing came in 2018, where I was, competing at nationals. I had done 2 national shows at that time. I was winning men's physique shows. I was doing pretty well. And I had a client that was going to Olympia. And at that point, I realized I need to make a choice. I could either continue to focus on my own preps to be locked into my own physique pursuits and really advancing my personal physique, or I could take this other, this turn in the road and really focus on my clients, on really advancing them, on my competitors as well as my lifestyle clients, and I'll really focus everything on them. But I got to give up this bodybuilding thing, and that's the decision I made because I was that passionate. And don't get me wrong, I loved competing. It was at that point in my life, it was the hobby or the activity that I loved most. But I realized in that moment that I loved coaching more. I got more fulfillment out of coaching. I got more fulfillment out of seeing others succeed than seeing my own success on stage. And so within that, I really think that as coaches, we not only need to have this passion, we need to have a driving force, because think about it. A lot of what we do is a passion project. A lot of times, and we have to think about it from multiple components. Every single day, I get up and educate myself. I'm up at 3 a.m. in the morning because I work with clients internationally, and I want to be up at a time where I can interact and communicate with them, and they'll get my responses in a time period in which they can communicate back with me. I don't know many other professions where someone owns their own business and will get up at 3 a.m. to communicate with their customers. And I'll tell you, I know many people that own many businesses, and I know very few that would work the schedule that I work. And the reason I can do that, and I do it day in and day out, is because I'm passionate. And another thing is, the passion within this career is it's all encompassing. This is a 24-hour job. So it's not only our careers, but it's also something that we have to emulate each and every day. We go to the gym, we train ourselves, we educate ourselves. We're constantly investing into our own education, both from a time and financial perspective, as well as into our clients. We're giving them our all. As a coach, we're investing our emotional energy as well as our physical, our mental currency into them. And so if you're not passionate about this, you're not going to survive. And really, with that being said, as a coach, we need to show others that we're passionate and dedicated to our craft, and that we're dedicated and passionate about our clients, and we're constantly looking to get better. And I also think it's important for us to let those know that we work with, that we're invested into them, into their process and their goals. And we do that through multiple facets. Like I'll always, get across to my clients. I always tell them, you give me 100%, I'll give you 100 plus. You know what I mean? And it's an investment. This is a relationship. This is a team that we have cemented together. However, at the same time, I want people to realize that this is something, when you're passionate, like think about any other career in life. And I'll tell you from a corporate perspective, when you finish a sales job, you're done for the day, essentially. And so, yeah, you might have some customers contact you off hours, but generally, if you're not in the office, you're not going to be able to process invoices and things of that sort. So you're not making sales. And so when that clock runs out, you're done for the day. And you're not thinking about it. You're not thinking about sales reports or anything else. You go home and you clock out. However, in coaching, we're always available for our clients first and foremost. We're always trying to, find out, like, say, for instance, I have an interaction, a call with a client, and they're dealing with something. And and I'm trying to walk them through the process. I'm spending hours out of my day researching the topic that we're looking for, or I'm making social media content to help educate them further, or we're making podcasts. We're spending hours on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm spending my lunch break with you going over components of coaching. And the reason we do that is because we're passionate about this. And if you look at any other industry, many others, they just have a job. They have something that they call work, but they don't truly love it. And it's not their passion. It's not it's not a passion project for them. And so that's a really thing that really differentiates true coaches that are doing it for the right reasons, and those that are looking at this as just a job that they want to clock into and clock out of.
I agree with you 100%, man. Well, dude, I think today was a good podcast. I think we had a lot of good things we covered. Most of all, I think people got insight into kind of like what we believe at our core matters, why this matters as much as it does. And, I always tell everybody, there was a good thing I heard once with Andy Frisella, and it was the episode where he talks about 100-0. It's okay to run the score up. He said, when people,
MFCEO.
yeah, man, when something's said to you and it bothers you, it's because someone rubbed up on the one little part about you that you know that you don't like, and you need to work on. And I always tell everybody, if you hear podcast, and that's me, man, like I'll hear podcasts and I'm like, whoa, that kind of hit me sideways. And then I'll think about it. And it's like, well, I could be doing better. And it's that moment of honesty. I always tell everybody your ego is a damning thing. And that's the one thing that will prevent you from going good to great in coaching. And especially in our space, I believe. But I can be found Instagram, Jeff Unbreakable Black. My book will be coming out soon, brittle-to-unbreakable.com. And you can find me on YouTube, Relentless Forever. I just put my training video up, so you guys get to see a little bit about my personality. So hopefully you guys like me a little bit more. But with that being said, B, where can everybody find you?
Absolutely, guys. Feel free to reach out to me either on Instagram at @BrandonDeCruz_ or on my email, which is bdecruzfitness@gmail.com. As always, guys, we appreciate your support. Please like, subscribe, share to the show. We always appreciate that. And we hope that we continue to deliver insightful, valuable content to you guys and information. And we're looking forward to coming back to you next week.
Yeah. If you guys got anything that you'd like us to cover, anything you all think we could do better, you ain't going to hurt our feelings, man. Tell us, hit us up. We love it. We love that shit. So guys, take care. Appreciate you all. Bye-bye.